Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. I'm currently neck deep in a big batch of knives where I am now hand sanding the handles on the knives. So if you make knives, then you know that's everyone's favorite part of knife making is the sanding. And so to minimize the depression in my soul, I'm going to forge a knife along with it. We're going to use some of this cool billet here that I made a while ago from drill shavings or Swarf, and some 01 tool steel. So let's do this. First order of business is to forge this pattern welded steel billet down to a longer, skinnier dimension, about 3/8 inch thick, to match the 01 tool steel rod here. Then we need to square up this round tool steel rod, and I'm trying to be careful here. I want to square it up, but I don't want to forge it any more than I have to make it any thinner than it already is. It's already, you know, at the thickness I want, so I don't want to make it any thinner. So we'll try to square that up here on the hammer a little bit and just get this pretty close, and then we can grind one of the flats to mate up with the pattern welded steel. So let them cool down to a black heat, and then trying to hurry the process along a little bit. Dipped them in water, cooling down the rest of the way, and that's totally fine for the high carbon steel billet there. But the tool steel did not handle it as well. 01 tool steel is a deep hardening steel. It's a lot more prone to cracking if you forge it at low heats, and or if you're to quench it in water, even if it's not at a high heat, if it's still cooling down, it can stress crack it. So I don't know if you were able to see that on the camera, but it was a line there in the steel, internal crack. Can't have that in the blade, so I went ahead and did up another piece for this, and we'll go ahead and wire the two pieces together. This is just to keep them from falling apart before we forge weld them together. You could also use a tack weld or something like that to keep them together. I chose to do it this way for a couple of reasons. One, just for the experience of it, and secondly, anytime you tack weld the ends of a billet, that tends to mess up the forge weld right at that location, because it's holding it, I think, because it's holding it stationary, you can't really forge weld together as well. So we'll dump some copious amounts of borax on here for flux once we're up to a good heat. And I didn't show up, but I also soaked it down with WD-40 before I put it in the forge the first time, so that helps a little bit too. Get up to forge welding heat here, and just set this weld here. You'll notice that I started in the middle and worked out towards the end, and then came back, worked towards the other end. That was on purpose so that we can force out any flux and or any other impurities out the ends, instead of potentially trapping them. I could have also worked from one end to the other and achieved the same thing. So I need to swap ends a couple times and get this welded, because the end that I address immediately upon removing from the forge has the heat, and then once you move to the other end, it's lost a little bit of heat. So you want to make sure that you have everything welded up properly. So now that we have the billet mostly welded together, I got a little bit on the end here that was separating slightly, but it's stuck together, and I can go ahead and take that wire off, which did partially weld to the outside, and I ground that off as well. So kind of straightening this out a little, flattening this out a little bit. This is where you're going to see if your forge weld did in fact stick, and I had to fix a little bit on the end there and get that stuck back on there at a little bit higher heat, and we're good to go there. Technically you want to forge weld at the lowest possible heat that you can, and that's to minimize the impact on your steel that the high temperatures will have out of necessity, but you don't have to forge weld at extreme heats necessarily. So the lowest possible temperature and still get a good forge weld is what you're really after. And you can see there that there's no indication of 2 pieces of steel on the end there. So go ahead and forge out the tip here. This is one of my favorite parts of the forge welding process. It's just the concept here is just neat. You know, you're drawing that steel up and around to create that point. And actually in this build, with the sort of fibrous looking nature of the Damascus or pattern welded billet, you'll be able to see how the grains on a very exaggerated scale are drawn up and around to form a continuous curve on the edge of the blade. So we'll draw out the tang here, obviously cut it off flush, and then continue forging the tang out here, and taper that down to save on stock and also lighten the overall tang weight. This is a 3/4 round bar, and use it on the power hammer here to forge in my finger choil. Works quite nicely, actually. And then we'll go ahead and finish forging the handle with the hammer by hand. Got some flux hanging on the end of the tang there, gumming things up a little bit. Alright, get through this here, forge that handle out, and we can go on to forging the bevel of the blade. And I'll start down at the heel there and get some width, get my width there, and then continue up towards the tip of the blade, using an equal number of blows on each side to maintain the edge in the center as much as possible. So we've got this blade forged, and we can go ahead and normalize it and then run process anneal cycle on it, and then couple additional grain refinements, and then we can go ahead and rough grind it. And I like to rough grind it to minimize the amount of hardened steel that I need to grind after the hardening process, and just to make sure everything's trued up, straight and in line. Which, of course, it needs to be after you're done forging, but there's little humps and bumps, that you can just clean up on the grinder. And we'll go ahead and the quench, and of course this is AAA quench oil, which is an appropriate oil for this 01 tool steel, or edge steel. It's a very easy, very hardenable steel, I should say. When heat treated properly, it's a deep hardening steel, so we do not need a very fast quenchant for the 01. Got it tempered there. We can go ahead and finish grind the blade, and looking pretty cool so far. I ground back the clip on the spine of the blade there. I like the look of that. Pretty neat. So after finish grinding, you can see that there are no visible indications of a forge welded blade, and that is exactly what you're looking for. You do not want any lines, which you can see right here. You can sort of see a line. That was where the 01 tool steel was starting to take a little bit of rust from the water before the pattern welded billet did, and so it was slightly discolored, and so on that one side you could kind of see a line, but or you could see that band of steel, but other than that, there's no visible indication of a forge weld there, which is what you want. Go ahead and etch my logo in there, and it works pretty good. Pull the disposable stencil off there, and that's what we have. Again, you can see the clean monosteel appearance of the blade, and it would appear that my camera lens needs some attention. Got some sparks on it, I think, that caused a little bit of fuzziness there. Sorry about that. So we've got a nice bloodwood handle scales attached here, and we can go ahead and grind these and finish the handle up, and we'll get real close to being done here on this cool knife project. You can see my belt smoking a little bit here. This is a hard wood, and this is a worn out 36 grit belt, but I'm running it into the tang here, so I don't want to use a brand new one. Alright guys, once again it is that time. It's actually a couple days later. I've got all my knives hand sanded and this one finished as well. I'll show you some pictures in just a minute, but if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, notifications bell, leave a comment, all that good stuff that helps support the channel without actually costing you anything but a few moments of your time. If you want to get a groovy hat like this, you can go to the description in the section below and order one of those for yourselves. We have those in stock. And of course I will have those knives that I was working on up in a few days once I get the sheaths finished. So be on the lookout for that as well. And if you want to be aware of new batches of knives as they come available, get on my email list, front page of my website at firecreekforge.com. As always, appreciate it. We'll see you on the next video.